Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with another top 10 video. And this is going to be my third and final superhero list video. And this is since I've already did the best superhero films and the worst superhero films. Now let's do the top 10 on my top 10 superhero films I think are underrated. And these films are going to be for superhero films that were badly received by critics, but I like, in my opinion. Ones that got positive reviews but didn't make an impact at the box office, or just did good at the box office and got positive reviews, but then people just seem to forget they exist. So yeah, that's what this list is gonna be consist of. So let me say this: there will not be any dishonorable mentions because honorable mentions because really not really worth making honorable mentions for this one because there's not really a lot of underrated ones. So anyway, let's just get the list started. At number 10 would have to be Constantine, 2005, starring Keanu Reeves. Basically, this one, an adaptation that was released in 2005 and deals with John Constantine, a tough detective in charge of exorcisms and throwing out supernatural beings and bizarre creatures towards hell, employing only as weapons a shot cross and holy water. He has the ability to go and back from Inferno. He is helped by a sympathetic apprentice, who's played by Shia LaBeouf, before Shia LaBeouf ruined his career. Ruined his own career eventually. Constantine teams up with a gorgeous policewoman called Angela Dodson, played by Rachel Weisz, to resolve the rare suicide of her twin sister, also interpreted by Rachel Weisz. They try to investigate the deeds at whatever risk. So yeah, when this movie was released, it wasn't very successful at the box office. It wasn't too well received by critics. It was mediocrely received by critics, but personally, I think it's a pretty good adaptation of the film. From start to finish, it's action-packed, the suspense is unstopped, it's spectacular and exciting with the supernatural plot narrated in stimulating and moving manner. It's still got plenty of tension, thriller, terror, grisly murders, and is developed and fascinating for that reason, results to be entertaining, and is actually pretty faithful to the comic book material. And it's well directed by Francis Lawrence, and I think it would be appeal to those who do know about the character and are fans of the character, and would appeal to Keanu Reeves fans of fantastic thriller enthusiasts. So yeah, Constantine would have to be number 10. Alright. Number 9, and this is one I do own. I own 9 out of one of these. Only Constantine I don't own, but anyway. Number 9 would have to be Dredd, the 2012 movie, not the 1995 garbage. Yeah, this was a major step up from the horribly misguided 1995 original, was faithful to the source material while adding its own unique spin on the world. So, the film was released around September 2012, and it bombed at the box office, unfortunately. Didn't really make any money, but it did get positive reviews from Judge Dredd fans and great reviews from critics, and it's actually regarded as a cult classic to this day. This one is set in a violent futuristic city where the police have the authority to act as judge, jury, and executioner. A cop teams with a trainee to take down a gang that deals with reality-altering drug slow-mo. Here's why this movie is pretty good and underrated, because Karl Urban was a way better Judge Dredd than Sylvester Stallone. Gave us the Judge Dredd we always wanted to see, some excellent action scenes, 3D special effects are good, plenty of excellent practical effects throughout that look amazing. Mom has a pretty interesting villain. Then the movie is formatted like a video game, which gives it awesome style and excellent pacing. Judge Dredd's helmet is never taken off. Even has some corrupt judges, an awesome soundtrack, and great environments that feel futuristic, present day, and sufficiently grungy to the Dredd universe. It's perfect. Yeah, there's still some plot holes, some unnecessary gore scenes, and it did bomb at the box office, likely thanks to the 1995 movie. Though it did get sequel potential from financial aid by the company, but I don't think a sequel is really going to be made at this rate. It's kind of a bummer. Okay, and number 8 would have to be Fantastic Four, 2005. Yes, I like this movie, guys. I don't care what people say. People can What? You like this movie? You're an idiot. Only a moron would love this movie. Guys, it's my opinion. If you guys hate it, your opinion. Keep your opinions to yourselves and just don't bash mine, please. I like this movie. It's a childhood classic. It's a childhood favorite of mine. Kind of grew. I mean, yeah, I didn't really like it at first, but I've grown to appreciate it over time and realized I've grown a bit better respect for it over time, especially compared to the garbage 2015 movie that I talked about in my worst list, and thankfully now don't have to talk and don't want to talk about on this list. Because, especially since the rest of the source material on like that movie is actually fair, and at least this movie is actually directed by a fan of the comics, so it kept the lighthearted tone that the comics are known for. So, what's this one about? Well, Reed Richards persuades his arrogant former classmate Victor Von Doom to fund his experiments with cosmic energy. On Von Doom's space station, the crew, including astronaut Ben Grimm, researcher Sue Storm, and pilot Johnny Storm, are exposed to a mysterious cosmic storm that bestows superpowers among them. As they cope with their transformations, Von Doom vows his revenge on them. So yeah, here's why I like this movie, because Michael Chiklis is great as Ben Grimm in The Thing, and a perfect casting choice, better than that pitiful version from Jamie Bell, and his makeup and costume looks impressive as well. Unlike story, Chiklis is a big fan of the comics, and his performance got a seal of approval from Stan Lee. The other actors aside from Washington are pretty good, even decent soundtrack for John Ottman. The final battle is awesome. Good funny moments here and there, specifically with Johnny Storm and The Thing arguing with each other is pretty epic to watch all the time. Some of the dialogue is surprisingly memorable. The skiing scene is very awesome. Stan Lee cameos as a character he created. Yeah, people can say Johnny Storm is annoying and unlikable and irritating to sit through, but personally, he prevents the movie from being boring. I kind of like that Chris Evans made him this funny clown. Funny playboy-like clown, and plus, unlike in 2015's movie, this Johnny Storm actually knows when to be serious. And isn't comedic all the time. He's actually serious when he needs to be. He still has mature moments, and all of his hilarious dialogue was actually improvised by Chris Evans, believe it or not. And rather than just being a soul female member of the team, Sue is able to use her anger for a motherly effect, and Ben Grimm's subplot is actually pretty tear-jerking, and to be fair, I think people would like this movie better if they maybe just watched the extended edition, because the extended edition, I do agree, is kind of a lot better. I kind of like with Daredevil, which I also do kind of like, guys, no offense. I kind of wish the extended edition of Fantastic Four were the true version we got. Maybe people would have been nicer to it, maybe it would have been even... It still made money at the box office, but it probably would have made like almost Spider-Man amounts of money at the box office if we had got the extended edition. And we probably even would have got the sequel. Probably would have got even more money because of it, and probably would have got that third film in this series instead of the garbage 2015 mess. Okay, on to number 7. Superman Returns. Yes, I also like this movie. Every Superman fan's like, this is one of the worst Superman movies ever made. This movie's so boring, this movie's so depressing. All of this is just a Christopher Reeve tribute. Yeah, it's kind of supposed to be all of those. I mean, this is kind of supposed to be the final chapter of the Christopher Reeve franchise. I mean, Christopher Reeve doesn't play the character of this movie because it was kind of made around the year he died, rest in peace, but this was a way better Superman 3 than the actual Superman 3 we got in 1983, and it's a hell of a lot better than that crap known as Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. This movie is more like an actually proper sequel to Superman 2, and in fact, it should have been the Superman 3 we should have got. If you take the original Superman trilogy like this, Superman 1978, Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, and Superman Returns, you got a pretty epic Superman trilogy right there. Okay, so what is this film about? Well, while his arch-nemesis Lex Luthor plots to destroy him once and for all, Superman returns to Earth after a 5-year absence and finds that the world has drastically changed during his absence. Lois Lane has moved on with her life, and society has learned to survive without him. Superman must find a way to reconnect with her and find his place in the world that may no longer need him. Why do I like this movie? Unlike a lot of people seem to hate it. It brings back the iconic Superman we all know and love. And I think Bryan Ralph does a pretty good job. Yeah, he tries a little too hard to be like Christopher Reeve, but this movie's supposed to be a Christopher Reeve tribute. I'm kind of glad they went that way. Ensemble cast does a decent job. Bryan Singer, who I used to like at the time, but not now, the director of X-Men, did a pretty amazing job handling a new non-Marvel property. The iconic John Williams theme returns, but it's remastered by John Ottman. Cinematic disasters that were 3 and Quest for Peace have been retconned, thank God, because those movies suck balls. The glorious recreation of the Superman catches a falling plane scene. Perfect. Marlon Brando's opening narration for the first movie is reused in the opening of the film. It includes quotes that had previously been unused, which basically kind of allowed the Richard Donner cut to finally be released of Superman 2. Some awesome visual effects. 15 years later, Bryan Ralph would even play Superman again from his Earth 96 counterpart in this TV adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The bad qualities are, there's not really a lot of action scenes. I kind of wish there was a little more. Kal Penn from Harold Kumar is really misused, and plus he has 0 dialogue in the movie, so it's kind of pointless to cast him, really. Runtime feels rushed. Superman's suit hasn't really aged too well. It's meant to imitate his classic suit from the Christopher Reeve movies, but it feels too comic booky at times. No well-known Superman villains, just only his arch-nemesis Lex Luthor. And Kate Bosworth was horribly miscast as Lois Lane. Yeah, I agree, she sounds way too angry in almost every scene she's in. She doesn't even sound happy to even be in this film. And of course, and then we get on to the most infamous one you probably all know. Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. Guys, there was a time when I did like as Lex Luthor, but since Kevin Spacey's actually a creep in real life, I no longer like him, or his portrayal of Lex Luthor, so yeah, I can't really give his Lex Luthor praise. Or probably don't, and won't. But despite those, I still think it's a pretty good film, and a perfect send-off to the Christopher Reeve Superman. Even though Christopher Reeve doesn't play Superman in this film, it's still a good send-off to the original Superman. And the true Superman 3. Alright, number 7. I've kind of already talked about this movie many times, but show it anyway. Blade 2. Yeah, this is an honorable mention in my best superhero films list, but it's just an honorable mention on this list because this film is pretty underrated. It's not as good as the first one, but some people don't really talk about this one much. They seem to talk about the first one, but I just think it's just underrated. For everything from Wesley Snipes' performance, from Ron Perlman, from Guillermo del Toro's direction, from all the action scenes, I think, there's still sticky CGI work, but the special effects look cheap to see the least, but I still think it's a fun sequel. Not as good as Blade 1, but pretty underrated, solid sequel flick for what it is. Alright. Number 5. And I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one, but here it goes. Spider-Man 3. And there we go, I just got a lot of hate for that. And I probably just angered a lot of people for saying it. Yeah, you're all like, why do you like this movie, but you hate Amazing Spider-Man? Guys. This movie has too many villains. Why do you even like this movie? You like so many bad superhero movies. That's not true. There's a lot of bad superhero movies I do hate. But this is definitely not one of them. And yes, guys, I hate both the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I don't hate Amazing Spider-Man 1 necessarily, I just don't really like it, but Amazing Spider-Man 2 I do hate. That's still the worst Super Spider-Man movie of all time. People can bash this all they want, but Amazing Spider-Man 2 is freaking worse. I would watch this 10 more times over that crap movie again. But onto this, because, I kind of like how... there's the cringy Bully Maguire dance, and Peter Parker has kind of a pretty cringeworthy crying performance most of the time, and I hate Topher Grace's Venom. That was unneeded, but I really like how they give the Uncle Ben murder story a full closure, and I kind of really like Sandman's portrayal. You feel pretty bad for the dude. He didn't really want to have Ben killed, and it's haunted him ever since, and he's just trying to help his daughter. You really kind of feel bad for him, really, and I really like how they expanded Harry Osborn's character, and Her character, I mean, character, they kind of made him a villain, but then they liked how, in the very final scene, he becomes this good friend again, goes to help Peter Parker rescue Mary Jane for the third time. And sure, it cost him his life, but he dies fully redeeming himself. And I think I really like that. And that has a pretty good message, too. So yeah, I still like this movie. I mean, Spider-Man fans may hate it. Some of my subscribers may probably hate this movie, but me, it's still a freaking masterpiece compared to TASM 2. I'd watch this over that crap any day, like I said. Alright, number 4 would have to be The Punisher, the 2004 movie. Punisher Warzone's also a pretty fun movie, in my opinion. I mean, this one's just kind of more of a guilty pleasure. I mean, it's not really as good as this one. This one's kind of more character-driven. This one's just more action-like. If you just want the action, gory Punisher, just watch this one. But if you want the character development one, watch this one. Watch the one with Thomas Jane. If you want, like, a serious film. I mean, this was actually a really good Punisher adaptation to me. It's an improvement over the 1989 film. Thomas Jane was phenomenal as Frank Castle. I mean, John Bernthal was also pretty good, but Thomas Jane really nailed it with the film. I mean, he's still my second favorite Punisher to this day. He looks and sounds the part. The skull logo's even on his shirt this time. Game's also pretty good. There's still some comic material. The combination of the Welcome Back Frank storyline, the 2001 Punisher series, and the game's also pretty good. This one, and I think the bad qualities is it doesn't really feel violent enough. It kind of feels way too tame for a Punisher movie. Yeah, there's not a lot of gore because like Punisher's a pretty gory character, and it kind of felt too soft. This one, Punisher's not really supposed to be a soft character. Plus, he's not even aimed for kids either. Frank Castle does feel a little bit underdeveloped, and John Travolta was really miscast as the villain. I felt his performance was way too narmy. Some weak and misguided plot that kind of just feels like a revenge film, really, and so there's some kind of poor basic action scenes, but I can look past those bad qualities. I mean, I still think this is a very good Punisher film, and a really good portrayal of the character. The serious version, anyways. Okay. Number 3 would have to probably be Batman Returns. Yes, I know it's praised by Batman fans. I know it's liked by critics. I mean, it's well received by critics, but compared to Batman 1989 and the Dark Knight trilogy, people don't seem to talk about this one very much. I mean, a lot of Batman, like, thanks to all the Karens in the 90s that got all mad over this movie being too dark, even though they clearly don't even know anything about Batman, that Batman was never even a children's character like the Adam West show tries to make it look like. Batman was always written as this dark, violent character. His comics are not for kids. A lot of his games now are not even for kids. Batman is not a children's character, period. He has a few family-friendly material, but he is no way a children's character. And that's basically what Tim Burton did right. And Christopher Nolan both did right. They made Batman a serious superhero that's actually aimed for grown-up, mature audiences. Like DC's supposed to be. I mean, I like that Michael Keaton returns to the tall character Batman and is more powerful. Danny DeVito, like I said, is my favorite Penguin of all time. I mean, I'm interested to see how Colin Farrell plays a character, but Danny DeVito can never be topped as a Penguin. He will probably always be the greatest Penguin in film. Oh man, Michelle Pfeiffer is also pretty good as Catwoman. The dark tone is perfect because it's faithful to the comic. It's even darker than The Dark Knight and any of the Dark Knight movies. The villains are faithful to the source material. Tim Burton returns as director and is actually much better comparison because this one actually focuses more on Batman. I like the first one, which, while I do like the first one still better, I mean, I like this one focuses more on Batman than the Joker, which was kind of one of my big problems with the first one. So, and I really liked the Christmas setting too. That was pretty creative. I liked how they set it on Christmas, which is actually pretty awesome. But yeah, I still think this is a great sequel. I feel like it kind of gets crapped on by a lot of Karens too much. Yeah, it's still a great watch. Not as good as Batman 1989, but it's still an amazing sequel. Alright, number 2 would have to be Hellboy 2004. No, not the stupid 2019 shit. The 2004 one, the one that's actually good. here's what this film is about. I mean, when this film was released, about. Towards the end of World War II, a Nazi resorts to black magic and conjure a demonic-looking being called Hellboy, but the Allies capture him and he grows up to fight against evil rather than for it. Yeah. That's what I enjoyed. Like, the good qualities, I mean, I really like this movie, the second most underrated super movie of all time, because Ron Perlman is perfect as a Tyler character, his makeup suits it very well, the action scenes are decent, Professor Broom's death is pretty heartbreaking to watch considering how well executed it was, and Guillermo del Toro really does give a good direction, especially this was done after he directed Blade 2. He knows what he's doing, and hired people he got along with. If it wasn't that, this movie would have failed. And plus this, its only sequel and Blood and Iron are more faithful to its comics than that 2019 remake we do not name. Now, like, this one doesn't seem to really be liked. This one doesn't really seem to be well regarded among a lot of comic book fans, and Hellboy's not really a well-known character anyway. I mean, this movie also did bomb at the box office with about 99 million worldwide, but was thankfully successful enough on home video sales to be able to get its sequel. Well, a lot of fans really didn't like this movie for not being like the comic book, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I liked all the other cast members too. I also liked Selma Blair, Jeffrey Tambor, Kel Roden, Rupert Evans, and John Hurt were all pretty good in their roles. So yeah, I mean, Hellboy 2 is also, Golden Armor is also pretty good, but in terms of like tone, I like this one a lot better. Hellboy 2 kind of gets a little too mythical at times. I think this one's a lot darker, and a little more serious, and a little more faithful to the source material. So yeah, I like this movie better. But they're both pretty good films. Alright, now on to the number one. The number one most underrated superhero movie of all time. The one no DC fan seems to remember. One of Zack Snyder's greatest movies, Watchmen, 2009. The most underrated DC superhero and comic book movie at the same time. And probably, I think, my second favorite Zack Snyder movie, behind Justice League, the Snyder Cut. And I mean the Snyder Cut, not the Justice Week cut. Alright. And here's why I love this film so much. It's faithful adaptation of Alan Moore's graphic novel, along with this comic adapted as that movie V for Vendetta, which is also a pretty underrated flick. Dr. Manhattan is an incredibly solid character with a deep personality, designs ripped apart out of the original comic. The film's backgrounds are gorgeous, its intellectual complexity seems well earned, not gratuitous but visually stunning. It isn't your typical caper flick filled with kick-ass effects and gunfire and no premise. Some great narration, an awesome intro sequence, a 2019 HBO series, which is actually technically a sequel to this film, is just as good if not better. And despite the changes in this cut, the director's cut is a better movie. A huge improvement, and it's more closer to the source material despite the changes from the film, but I mean, the bad qualities are that the giant squid and the comic doesn't really appear, and it's placed with the destruction of New York, so there's still some unlikable characters. The sex scenes are a little bit strange, but then again, Watchmen's not a kid's book. So I'm glad they didn't tone it down and make it all some PG-13 bore fest, because Watchmen is a rated R series, and this was back when Warner Bros. Didn't always try to screw up Zack Snyder's work, like they did with all the other DCU movies like Batman vs. Superman and Justice League back in 2017. As of the critics, they wrote about the film for its Cold War period setting as a subject of criticism, a lot of the use of 1980s fears that never came past or felt dated, and of course it didn't even make money at the box office either. It did make a decent amount of money, but it was not successful at the box office in any way, so it only made about 185 million worldwide, which was a bummer. Man, that's weird. It's always all the more adult DC movies that never succeed. They always bomb. It's always the R-rated faithful ones that always got bomb, and the crap ones always get money. All the crap PG-13 DC movies, well, those ones are the ones that always get the most success. Well, I think the only dark DC movies that really make profit were the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman 1989, Batman Returns, and Joker. I think those are the only 4 dark DC movies that seem to really make a profit and get liked by people. what they are. Alright, and there we go. That's it for my list of the top 10 underrated superhero films. Let me know in the comments below what your list would be for the most underrated superhero movies, and until then, that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.